Welcome back to Growth Without Referrals, the show where consulting leaders talk honestly about what's working to win new clients today beyond referrals. I'm Mark Ferguson, and today I'm joined by Blair Wedding, CEO and managing partner of the White Knight Consulting. Blair, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mark. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. For those meeting you for the first time, what does White Knight Consulting do, and who do you help the most?
So we are a small boutique technology consultant. We do focus a lot on Salesforce, but because we touch so many other applications outside of Salesforce, because the fabulous API connections that you can have with Salesforce, we really kind of go more along the lines of a technology consultant because our clients will continuously ask us to help them evaluate things like marketing applications and maybe ERPs and maybe accounting software and tax software and things of that nature. And so although we do primarily focus on the Salesforce application, we try to help our clients where we can. And because every SaaS application is very similar, we have, obviously advanced knowledge of what works and what doesn't. And then, of course, if they want to integrate it to Salesforce, we also obviously have to have an intimate knowledge with the application because we're going to be working in it and integrating it to their system. So we are a small boutique firm, and your question is what kind of clients do we work with? Billion-dollar companies, but we've also worked with a lot of small organizations, some nonprofits. So basically, if you're a customer who sells something, sells someone, or a combination of the two, you're a client of ours. And if you're evaluating Salesforce, or if you're currently using Salesforce and not getting what you would call the masked capacity out of it, then you're a client. So yeah, I think we kind of got into that small to medium-sized business niche because I kind of grew up in a small to medium-sized business. And so, I understand the trials and tribulations of being a small business owner, which I also am a small business owner. And so, we kind of ended up in that niche. But I think we ended up in that niche because we had a lot of contacts at Salesforce who are Salesforce representatives, and they were in that segment. And so we just kind of ended up there. And so that's kind of what we do. But it doesn't mean that we can't work on big business because my entire career I've worked on enterprise. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. And Blair, when clients come to you, what's usually broken or underperforming in their CRM world?
It's interesting. It's kind of a combination of a few things. So going back to what I was saying is, if your Salesforce is not working at max capacity, or they've, had a very large shift in the way that they do business, and their Salesforce environment was built for something completely different than what they're trying to do today. But most of the time it's like, they don't know what they don't know. So they maybe went and they sat down with a friend, and their friend said, this is what we're doing in our Salesforce. And they're going, oh my God, you can do that in Salesforce? And so they'll reach out to their Salesforce rep, and their Salesforce rep will introduce them to us. And then we'll tell them that they can absolutely do whatever that thing is and more. And then, of course, evaluating what they're currently doing in Salesforce, or evaluating what they want to do, and then come up with, a plan on how they can approach a few different things, not just what that thing that they think that they need. So most of the time we're evaluating Salesforce. We're currently using Salesforce and we are not exactly happy with what we're getting out of it, or we'd like to get more out of it, or they're looking to integrate to something else. And they want us to help them kind of understand what it is that they need to do. An integration can be very, very complex. And so they need some help there as well. Or it could just be, a friend saying, hey, can you put a report together for me?
Okay. And Blair, you said your journey has been unique and that entrepreneurship is in your blood. Walk us through that path. Early exposure to business, sales ops, into sales, then Salesforce, and ultimately founding White Knight.
So my mother's going to watch this, so I need to be nice, but my parents had me answering phones at 12. And so my parents' business name was Platinum Network Services. So I pick up the phone at 12 years old, Platinum Network Services. How may I help you? If I wasn't, if I wanted anything or wanted to do anything, I had to file paperwork. And so my parents took over my playroom and made an office out of our sunroom. So that was the only place that I had toys. And so once those toys were gone, I guess it was time to, file paperwork. It was really cool because, at the middle of the night, I'd watch my dad be on his computer working on his website. They had fun, they played, but they also worked really hard. And so, it was a nice way to grow up to understand that like hard work is what pays. And that kind of helped me all throughout my career, right? I wasn't expecting something for nothing because I watched my parents get something for a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes nothing for a lot. That's one thing about being in a small business world. And I don't think a lot of people understand about owning your own company is that you can have fast or famine, right? You
Yes.
can have a month that is the most incredible month you've ever had in your entire life, and it could be the most incredible situation ever, ever known to man. And then the next month, you could have absolutely nothing and not be able to pay your rent. You know what I mean? So I watched that transition with my parents as well. They had some really great companies and then some really not so great companies. And so I was lucky enough to be able to start this company at a time where my husband was doing very well and I didn't really have to worry about like not eating. But also at the same point, I've built this business into something that I'm very proud of. I enjoy what I do every day, which is you don't get to do that very often. I don't think a lot of people get to enjoy what they do every day. I mean, you get me chatting about business processes and people are like, okay, well, that's enough. That's enough. So, historically, so everything that I did led me here, right? So, I started my career off in 2006 when we were in the middle of a recession. There was no jobs to be had. There was no sales jobs to be had. There was nothing. So I took a job as a receptionist at a law firm, and worked there for a few months. And then I started working for a GM in a sales company in telecom, where my father called me up and asked me for my resume one day. And I was like, why do you need it? Skeptically, right? And so he applied for the job for me. And like, I got a phone call back the next day and I was like, who is this? Like, who's calling me? What is going on? And he was like, you're going to get a bump in money and then you'll be, I think he was trying to make me go into sales. Like, honestly, I think he was just trying to like push me into that world successfully. Fortunately, I don't know. Talk to me in, 40 years. I don't know. I don't know. He applied for that job for me and that started my sales career. Even though I was in a support role, I saw what worked and what didn't work. I was writing contracts for salespeople. And so, from a sales operations perspective, that gave me all of the knowledge that I needed to know about how to speak to vice presidents of sales, CEOs of companies, how to negotiate a contract, how to create a contract, right? And really how to become a fully well-rounded salesperson, right? And so that got me into another position. And then finally, I went to sit down with my vice president of sales at the company that I was working for. I was in charge of $60 million worth of monthly recurring revenue, and they didn't want to lose me. And so I walked up to the sales guy, the vice president of sales, and asked if I could go into sales. And he literally bluntly said, no, we can't lose you. Well, you're gonna, So I ended up going and applying for some sales jobs, and boom, I got into software. And I started off working for a configure price quote solution and was very successful there, was able to work with very large organizations like American Airlines, John Deere. I worked with like Daimler. I worked with, my goodness, who else have I worked? I mean, Nordstrom, Southwest, American Airlines, AT&T, some really large organizations. Honeywell was one of our clients. I got us into that RFP. Splunk was one of our clients. And so, it was really cool. I was like 28 years old, sitting in a boardroom, talking to CEOs that were Fortune,
Mm.
I think my CEO brought me in there because I was the reader. I'd read people in the room, a lot of this, a lot of this, a lot of this, And so I'd watch people and I could tell you whether or not they were willing to buy or if they were going to do anything or if they were not going to do anything. And so I had some really cool experiences very early on in my career because I was working for a small organization. And so that propelled me into working for large organizations like Oracle and Salesforce. And so everything that I had learned in my career got me to be the top 25 rep at Salesforce. And, I was making bank and was recruited away to become a vice president of sales, which, I think was a great experience as well. It taught me a lot about, learning the interior of a business because I had always been on the outside, right? Selling in. And so that taught me a lot. And then I decided to go into consulting because I was like, it's great to do one, but I want to do 100, right? Just helping one company is no fun. When I help as many companies as I possibly can. So consulting is the only way to do that. And so, like all the mad crap that they talk about with consultants, well, we want to help a lot of people, not just one person. So don't be jealous. But I started the White Knight Consulting because, quite frankly, and I'll be honest, I got laid off and it was in 2020. And I was like, I've learned this business so well. I've been doing this now for 5 years. I want to do it on my own. I was making 10% commission when I could be making a lot more in margin. And I learned the business and I learned how to write contracts and I learned how to estimate projects. And I learned a lot from those consulting jobs. And so I just started my own and here we are. And I wanted to make us be a little bit different than everybody else. One thing that I noticed in the marketplace was that we were doing a lot of overseas. And quite frankly, as someone who's the salesperson and trying to sell more things, I would have conversations with clients and they'd be like, it's not that this person doesn't know what they're doing. It's just that we have such a big language barrier. And we're talking about business processes in the United States of America, right? We don't do business like India does business or LATAM does business or any of the like in the Far East or any of that, right? So wherever you have your consultant, it's really difficult to try to define a business process that's very, very detailed to the way that the United States of America does business and how Americans buy and purchase and things of that nature. And so it was like, we want to do it in 20 hours, but it's going to take us 100 because we have a language barrier. We have a time change or time zone issue. We have people saying yes when they actually mean no. And so, so I wanted to do something different. Although we're more expensive than everybody else, but quite frankly, we're not anymore because all these other guys are charging like almost $350 an hour for somebody who they're paying $5 an hour because they have so much overhead. It's just outrageous, right? So, although they're only getting like let's call it 35% margin, it's because they have, 75,000 bean counters and, some fat cat sitting up in ivory tower making, $5 million a year, right? So you're paying $1,700 an hour, but the guy who's actually doing the work is getting paid maybe 20, okay? So with that being said, I wanted to do something different. I saw these big majors and what they were doing, and I was like, God, they're totally screwing their customers, and they're not even getting a good product. So I decided to start recruiting in the military. Salesforce has something called Agent Force, and they've changed the name. I don't know. They've changed the name. The only constant at Salesforce is change, okay? So they changed the name. I don't know what they call it now. Hiring Our Heroes does a little bit of it as well, and there's some other, I can plug some other people in here, but I just started hiring for the military. My husband was 22 years in the Air Force and Army. I saw him hiring people from recruiting from the military as well of, a bunch of different types of people. And so I just started like leaning into that. And I got some phenomenal resources and guys that like, they already do what they're told as it is. You know what I mean? Like you're already following orders, right? But they're also they're thought provoked, right? So although they're doing what they're told, they still have the ability to think outside the box and go, excuse me, sir? Yeah. What if we do this instead? So they still have thought provoked. I had some really phenomenal military resources and it just was unbelievable. So we did something different. We decided to use US based only resources unless it was very niche, right? So like if no one in the United States knew how to do Commerce Cloud, for instance, then I would work with somebody overseas. But I was very, 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 very particular on who that person was. So that's it, right? So, my father and mother were entrepreneurs. I decided to run my own business. And then I saw what I had seen in working at Salesforce, working as a consultant and dealing with some of the big majors and decided to do something completely different. And so now here we are 6 years later. And it seems to be working. I don't know.
That's great. Blair, yeah, what a great story. And I love the fact that your mom and dad were such great role models. You saw that. It instilled within you that work ethic ethic. And then also you have some gifts of discernment, and you can read people, you have tenacity, you have great energy. What a great story.
Well, back when I was in my 20s and in sales, I was lightning in a bottle. I guess it worked.
That's awesome. So Blair, this show's about growth beyond referrals, right? So for many consultancies, referrals are the engine until they aren't. So let's talk honestly. How has your firm actually grown since 2019? What channels or strategies mattered most?
So, what works is building relationships. I mean, quite frankly. And that's not necessarily referrals, right? Because yes, it does have something to do with referrals, because the sales reps that we built relationships with will think of us and introduce us to their clients, right? But that can be that can go away really fast, because a sales rep could get a happy hour from somebody else and then they don't call you ever again, right? Even though, even though you've dedicated a lot of time to them and honestly become, I would say friends, like where you've stayed at their home, or maybe you've had dinner with them, and, or you've met their family or met their husbands, or talked about, life, love, and the pursuit of happiness, right? And so, from a referral perspective, it's definitely relationship building, but I think it's more along the lines of like getting strategic, really focusing on something that, so like for instance, one of the things that I do in my company is I'll like put together a marketing campaign that's really driven into a specific topic, right? So
Okay.
like at the beginning of the year, I did a specific topic at the end of last year, I did a specific topic wrapped around AI, and because nobody knows what AI is. Okay. Let's be honest. Small
True.
businesses, they don't know what it is. They don't want it. They don't like it in their personal life. They certainly don't want to put it in their business. Right. So you talk to Joe Schmo, who owns a concrete company that does, curbs and driveways. He doesn't want AI in his business. Okay. But he does want to know that the pet's name of his client on 2424 blah, 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 blah is Joe, right? He does want to know that. He wants to know when their birthday is, or maybe when their marital anniversary is, or maybe what their kid's name is, right? Because sometimes the kid's going to be there,
Mhm.
especially like lawn guys and HVAC people and things of that nature. Like I want to know that my system will send out an email for me to remind, Aunt Sally that she needs to change her HVAC, whatever thing, or those are all the types of things that they want. They don't want AI. They don't want AI to run their business for them. They want to have complete control, but
Yes.
enough control so that maybe it'll get them some business, right? And that's not AI. AI sending an email for you is not AI. That's automation. You come up with the email, you put a list together, you tell the system to send it out on this date and time. That's not AI. That's automation. Okay. So I think we're pushing this down. It's literally like a really big pill that we're trying to push down small businesses' throat, and they don't want it. They're not having it. They don't want it. So what I was trying to portray in some of my marketing was that I wanted them to know that although you think it's AI, it's not AI. And
True.
Salesforce does that already without AI. So you don't need AI. You don't need Agent Force to have it send out an automatic email for you, right? And so
Mm.
I do these little tests all the time, testing the market. See if I get any response from the market, because I think it's our responsibility as business owners to identify what works and what doesn't, and what our client, I mean, we're like politicians, right? We're doing polling all the time. And I'm polling my base on LinkedIn and trying to figure out what they're interested in, like what captures their attention, right? And that did not capture their attention. So it's quite clear that small business does not want AI, and they don't even want to talk about it, okay? So it's cute that Salesforce wants to shove it down their throat, but they don't want it, okay? They don't want it. So stop trying to sell it to shove it down their throat. So with that being said, when we talk about referrals, our responsibility to the marketplace is to identify and understand what they want. They want their Salesforce to work, right? They want it to function the way that they were sold that it would function, right? And they also want to be able to do all of this like small things that the CRM is supposed to do in the first place. And that's, keep data around their customers and maybe do a little bit of automation and then reporting. And if they don't have those three things, then they're not using Salesforce properly. And they just need a consultant to come in and do like, I don't know, 20 hours worth of work and their whole life would change, right? Like a small business, think about if I have, I don't know, 3,000 customers, okay? And those 3,000 customers, there's, I don't know, let's call it 20 pieces of fields, 20 pieces of data that you want to collect on those 2,000, 3,000 customers, right? And all you want to do is just build a report that says, these are the things I want to understand. It's not a big deal. It's 20 hours. It's not going to break the bank. 20 hours would be $4,000. $4,000 could equate to 400,000 in revenue, which means the profit on that for a small business is a ton of money, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
what we do, right, is our responsibility to the market is to say, okay, well, why don't you break up that $4,000 into two payments of $2,000 so that we don't mess with your cash flow? And why don't we help you and then help you go and find $400,000 worth of revenue because it's in your data. It's in it. You're just not looking hard enough, or you're just not organized enough to collect it. So from a referral perspective, it is building a relationship, but also identifying your market, right? And identifying what doesn't work and stop trying to push things down people's throats until they're ready. And I'm not saying that you should just kind of like forget about AI. No, I think you should change your messaging, but also at the same point, like 95% of your marketplace doesn't want it. So focus on something else because there are things that they want, right? And you're not even touching that because you're focused up here. And I think consultants have historically, whatever Salesforce is doing, consultants do too. So if Salesforce is pushing something, like let's say they're pushing Service Cloud or Agentforce, or they have this new thing where it's like a suite of products where it's you get everything, but not you get everything, but a little bit of everything. And then when you want to upgrade, you have to pay full price for it. So you might have paid $18,000 for like everything. But let's say, for instance, you want to take your marketing to the next level. Well, it's going to be another $18,000. That's not what small businesses want. That's not what they want. They want to be stuck, okay?
Yes.
And they don't want to be stuck. So I think what we need to do as consultants, right? So if we're talking about the referrals and making sure that we continue to get business, is our responsibility is to test the market. Our responsibility is to be an advocate to our client, right? Because, referrals, right? They will send you referrals, which is sometimes nice, right? Because you could be having one of those that famine month, right? And, they help you feast a little bit,
Yes.
right? A little bit of feasting. But we need to make sure that we are advocates to the people that we serve every day. And those people are our clients. And so it is a fine line, right? Because Salesforce could literally snub you. They could say, that's it. You're done. You're never doing business with us ever again. And none of our reps will ever refer anything to you ever again. And so now what happens is that the Salesforce reps stop calling and you can't do business with them ever again. And it's a pay to play, right? So if you're not paying Salesforce to be a partner, it's a pay to play. However, I get it, right? They got to make money somehow from their partners. But, again, if they don't have, but that's like, let's call that like $3 billion worth of their revenue, right? Is partners paying money to be a partner. So,
True.
so as a small business, right? I'm certainly not paying $3 billion, but also at the same point, I think a lot of the reps think that we get paid when we sell something. No, we don't get commissions. They get commissions. We don't get a commission. We're real estate agents. If that deal doesn't go through, we make zero money, not one red penny, not 1 cent. And I think that I didn't get it when I worked there, right? But also at the same point, I think that our responsibility, again, I'm going to say it again, our responsibility is to our clients, right? And it's to understand what they want, understand what the market wants, and drive that messaging, right? And making sure that we continue to serve our clients. And I don't know. I was asked a couple, I don't know, it was a couple weeks ago. Somebody asked me, do you want to get big? Open up, I don't know, like a whole market, right? So let's say, for instance, I opened up the entire, construction market. right? And every single construction person started doing business with me. How, like, would you enjoy getting big? And I was like, you know what? No, I like that personal touch. I like the small white glove scenario. And I don't know how companies could ever grow and keep that mentality. So from a referral perspective,
Yes.
I'm not really sure that I want a ton of business because my responsibility to my client, again, my responsibility is to my client. And then if I have 60 of them, there's only a certain amount of hours in the day. And I also have to take some time for myself too. You know what I mean? And so each of my clients is going to lose a little bit every single time that I take on another client. Or I'm going to have to clone myself, which, by the way, I've tried to clone myself 8 times and it's been unsuccessful. I don't think a lot of the young people want to be like, they don't want to do what I do, right? They want to go work for a big corporation, collect a paycheck, and peace out at 5:00. So, and you're never going to make any money doing that. I mean, Mark,
No.
you've worked in corporate, you know that, right?
Yes.
Never going to make
Yes.
money making money for somebody else. I mean, you'll make
So
money,
true.
but you won't make great money.
Right. Right. And Blair, that was very insightful, and I appreciate your candidness with it. And so here we're going to switch gears. We're going to do something that's going to be a little fun. Okay. So I'm going to ask you, well, I'm going to make some statements.
Okay.
And what I'm going to like you to do is just give me quick feedback, maybe 2, 3, 4 sentences of what you think about these statements. Okay. Are you ready?
Try not to read my face.
Okay. So the first one is marketing is marketing, good or bad marketing?
I mean, I think I would tend to agree with that statement. If people, I mean, think about like I don't even know so maybe this is a bad example, but the company with the CEO that was making out with the VP of marketing, right? That company, literally nobody knew who it was, and they know who it is now, right? Except for me. I obviously don't know who they are, but I could look it up. Okay. So again, good marketing is good. Now, bad marketing, okay, so it defines what your bad marketing is. Bad marketing could also be like sending out mailers. That's bad marketing, right? Like
That's true.
we just had a primary here in Texas. Oh my God. I just went and checked my mail and it was like 75 mailers. And it was like, I didn't even look at them. I just threw them in the trash, right? Bad marketing, like really bad marketing. Okay. And so maybe the answer is yes and no, right? Yes, a scandal could get your name out there, right? Or don't waste your money on mailers, like stop trying to do the same thing that everybody else is doing. Try to think of something different, which, by the way, we are so overly marketed to right now. I mean,
Yes.
spam calls, spam text messages now. Yay. Emails. I mean, I look at my junk email and there's, 2,400 every day junk. And every time I buy something, why do I need you to send me an email? I don't need you to send me an email. Send me an email when you're having a sale. Send me an email when you have a new product that you think I might be interested in. Other than that, shut up. So that's bad marketing because that actually irritates me and I don't want to buy from them, right? So, Mark, my answer is yes and no because
Okay.
I think that there's ways to be marketed to, and then there's also ways that you're wasting your money. And also you're not collecting enough information about your clients. So if I'm sitting out there and I'm just sending a bunch of crap away and hoping that something sticks, that's stupid. That's a waste of time, right? Somebody's got to build that content. Somebody's got to build that mailer. Somebody's got to put that crap together. Somebody's got to put a stamp on it, right? Like that takes time. You're wasting your time. Stupid. Don't do that.
Okay. Here's number 2. Transparency is a core value. Be brutally honest with clients.
Yeah, to a point. I mean, our clients don't want to know how the hamburger's made, right? Just give them a hamburger, right? It's juicy, it's tasty. I mean, if you're a vegan, give them I don't know, a portobello mushroom, whatever. The thing is they don't want to know how the hamburger's made. And I think the things that you should be brutally honest about is it going to work or is it not going to work, right? Don't just take their money and then be like, oh, sorry, it didn't work, but be brutally honest. And by the way, if you don't know if it's going to work or not, just tell them, right? Because they're not going to be surprised at the end when you're like, I told you it may not work, right? Because it's technology. You have no idea. And with Salesforce, it either you go in there and you actually develop it or it's not developed. There's no proof of concept anymore, okay? It's like, if I go and I build and I develop it, then that's me spending money on time that I had to do it. So you have to pay for it. Like, it's like your lawyer, right? You go to your lawyer and you sue somebody and you don't win. Do you go back to your lawyer and be like, give me my money back? No, you're not going to get your money back. You're going to pay your damn lawyer, right? Technology is
Right.
no different. It is no different. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to work, but you have to pay for my time. Hello?
Yeah.
So,
Okay, number 3.
okay,
Sales versus business development are different.
totally different. Totally and completely totally different. Totally different. Sales is an art. It is a strategy. It is building a strategy wrapped around getting a deal closed. Okay? It is, this is what we need to do first. This is what we need to do second. This is what we need to do third. This is all the risk that could happen during the sale. I'm going to be more animated because let's be honest, there's a lot of risk on every deal that you do, right? Business development is like, hey, bro, let's go have some dinner. Let's go to our kids' basketball games and build relationships and love on each other, tell everybody we love each other and go to each other's, football games and weddings and maybe go and visit each other at a basketball game every once in a while. Whatever, right? My husband does business development and he's fantastic at it, right? He's fantastic at it. He builds relationships and I build relationships too, but mine's more along the lines of like, I'm pretty honest to a point, right? I mean, obviously, I haven't been lying on this podcast, right? But again, my responsibility is to my client. So I need to be a little bit more strategic, right? On ensuring the fact that, and not to mention, like what he's selling and what I'm selling are totally different things. There's so many things to understand about technology, right? There are so many things that it impacts. There are so many things that it's going to change people's lives. Every single solitary human in your business may or may not be impacted by it, right? And so it's a big decision. And then on top of that, it's like there's so many what ifs and there's so many risks and all these things. So you have to know every single thing. So I'm doing an education process the entire time. So every time I'm talking to a client, I'm educating, educate. And they can't know everything that I know. I've been doing this for 20 years. How could they possibly know everything that I know? Right? I can only get them as close as I possibly can to somewhat of the finish line and then be like, okay, well, now there's this other thing that I want to teach you about, right? So again, sales and business development, totally different things. Sales is a very strategic, very calculated, very process-oriented thing with a theory wrapped behind it. However, business development and sales can go one and the same. And if you're good at both of them, you're a fantastic salesperson. So that's how I'll end that one.
Thank you, Blair. Very insightful. So
Welcome
let's turn this into practical takeaways. So again, I'm going to ask you make some statements and questions and just get your feedback on. Okay. What's one mindset shift that helped you grow faster?
If it's uncomfortable, you're probably growing.
Okay.
Would you like me to tell you the story on how I came to that conclusion?
Yes, I would. That's great.
So back when I first started my career at Internap as sales operations, I hope she doesn't watch this, but I won't use her name. I had a vice president of sales operations who was, I thought she was grooming me to become the manager of all the sales operations managers because I was the best sales operation manager on the team. And I hope she watches it for that reason, right? And I thought, well, let me put it this way. I thought I was, right? And my boss saw something different. She saw a very, very fantastic worker, but I was I was kind of doing everything. I was very disorganized, right? Although I was performing my job perfectly, I was doing it in the time that it took the person who was going to mentor me 5 hours, it took me 8, right? And it's not because I couldn't do it. It's just because I wasn't organized and I wasn't thinking for myself. And I was young. I was like 25 years old, 25 years old. I don't know what the hell I was doing. So anyway, so she put me with this woman out of Boston and she pushed me really hard. I mean, was almost condescending, right? And I was very annoyed. I didn't like the way that she was teaching me, right? But also at the same point, because she taught me like that, it made me go faster because I did not want to be taught by her anymore. So I knew that I had to whip myself into shape quickly. And it was so uncomfortable during the entire time because I was doing things a certain way so long. And I was like, God, I have to change. It's so freaking annoying. And then I started to change and I was like, you know what? This is a lot easier. I don't know why I was doing it that other way because I was stupid. Like now it's way easier to do my job. And so, but I was so pissed pardon my French, I was so mad and I was so angry that entire time. I was so annoyed. I could not stand that this girl was so condescending to me every single day. But also at the same point, like what I look back at that now and I go, wow, that was an absolutely fantastically wonderful moment in my life because I changed. And not only did I change, but I changed for the far better because I stopped doing bad habits and I was able to organize my thoughts, which made me a fantastic sales operations manager, which put $60 million worth of revenue, which made me go out and and get to talk to Fortune 50s, which propelled me into sales, which propelled me into sales and thinking for myself at the same point. And so some of the most hardest moments in your entire life propel you into these moments that really change you and so uncomfortable at the time. You're so uncomfortable, but when you get out of it, you're like, oh, okay, I understand now. I understand why I needed to do that. So maybe if you're uncomfortable, you're probably in the biggest growing moment in your life. So go be uncomfortable. Stop being offended by everything and go be uncomfortable.
Love it. Love it. So what is your best advice for a new consultant trying to break out beyond referrals?
New consultant breakout. Hire a marketing team, but a really fantastic one and get your name out there. PR firm, honestly, I don't think a lot of people use PR as much as they should, and it depends. And again, but you got to be focused, right? You got to be really focused on what you're going to do, right? And also don't stick with something too long, right? So if you're not seeing the fruits of your labor after like 2 months, abandon ship and move and keep doing something else, right? Or maybe sharpen the pencil a little bit more because maybe you're not hitting the mark. And then also rely on call the consulting world an industry, right? I mean, this is an industry. And like, although we're competing against each other, I still have a lot of friends in this business, right? We're competing against each other, but there's enough business to go around. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like I have friends in the business, and if they're doing something and I'm not doing it, then I'm sending them referrals, right? Because I'm like, yeah, we don't do that. Let me send you my contact for this, for a guy who does that, right? And so we all are small business owners. We all are struggling with the exact same thing. Like rely on your industry and get to know each other, right? At the end of the day, like we don't all want the same business, and yeah, sometimes we will be competing for the same job, but I don't know, rely on other people. Don't make their same mistakes, right? I've already made mistakes. I've been in business for 6 years, plus another 4 before that in another consulting company where I was a vice president. So I knew where all the mistakes were, right? So I've already done the mistakes. I've been there for 10 years. I know what the mistakes are. So like, ask somebody, right? Don't try to do it in a vacuum. So, and then of course, when it comes to business is tough, the amount of time that you have to spend, don't go hire a bunch of people. Expect that you're going to be working 16-hour days. When I was a startup, 6 o'clock in the morning until 10 or 11 o'clock at night. My first year in consulting, I slept this much and worked this much. Sorry, let me get in frame. This much. You're working. Like, this is not like, oh, I just go out to dinner with people and I just, talk to them on the phone and blah, blah, blah. No, you have to go find business. You have to go find resources. You have to go find people. You have to be your own marketing team. And if you don't, you're spending money, which guess what that means? You're taking money away from yourself. Because if you're a small business owner and you go hire people, those people cost money and you're taking money away from yourself. So do everything. Work hard. It'll pay off.
Love it. Blair, this was awesome. And the people that are listening, where can they find you?
Well, I'm right here. You can go to our website. I hate to say this, but my actual cell phone number is on the website because I don't have some like random like Google call, whatever. So if you want to find me, I'm sure that Mark, you can like throw up my email address or something like that.
I will.
But it's Blair W, the white knight or thewkconsulting.com. Or you can just, pick up the phone and call me. But leave a message because I'm going to screen you because I'm thinking you're spam because I get 75 billion of them a day.
And we talked about that. Yes. We have a contact
me page on our website as well. So, if you want to grab that, you can, or you can, just ask me out to happy hour or dinner. And I'm happy to join you for that as well. If you're in the Dallas area, but I frequent Fort Lauderdale, Savannah, Georgia. I'll be in Hawaii next week. So, and funny enough, I was in Hawaii and one of my clients happened to be in Hawaii literally 5 minutes down the road from me. And we didn't know. So, I mean, like that random weirdness happens far too often. Okay. Like, why do we have to go all the way to Hawaii to have a drink? You know
That's
what I mean?
right.
I mean, not a bad,
Sounds fun.
look, not a bad place to have a drink, but also the same.
That's
Like,
right.
what?
That's great.
So that's how you can find me.
Okay. And for our listeners, if you got value from this episode, follow the show and share it with one of your consulting leaders who's trying to grow beyond referrals. And thank you so much, Blair, for joining us today.
Absolutely.